It's naive to assume that the leaders and executives in the organization are solely focused on building the business. A lot of them are just focused on their own career and self-preservation. And these are the people you have to watch. Hello again. Welcome to The Ruthless Truth. I am your host, Truth Davis. In this forum, I share opinions, thoughts, truths on a wide variety of topics based on what I believe to be a unique life experience. You can read the details in the notes or the bio. My intent is to share stories and hopefully provide some life and career lessons that will help you on your journey. And please follow me on Instagram at TruthDavis5. General format, I'll share some initial commentary on current news or just some thoughts. Then I'll have a deeper discussion on one topic in what is today's truth. And then I like to finish with an American history fun fact. Okay. Two big national news items in the past week. One was Serena Williams. Let me first say that I am a huge tennis fan. I've been to the U.S. Open 7 times. I was actually there when 17-year-old Serena Williams won her first Grand Slam at the 1999 U.S. Open. She's not just my favorite tennis player, but one of my favorite professional athletes of all time. That said, I'd like to share my perspective on her recent announcement of losing 31 pounds on a GLP-1, and she is now the spokesperson for her drug of choice. Similar to plastic surgery, I really don't care what people choose to do with their bodies if it makes them happy and feel better. And I acknowledge there's a can't win component to this issue, because people who are obese often get fat shamed, but if they experience a rapid weight loss via drugs, then they get criticized for taking a shortcut. So we make it hard for them. The only point I have is this. It is still possible to experience significant weight loss without GLP-1 treatment. I've seen before, after weight loss pictures all my life. People have been losing weight for decades, while GLP-1s have only been around for about 10 years. So I just don't want the message to be, this is the only effective option, because that would be inaccurate. The other story is the decision by Cracker Barrel to change their logo. Now, I gotta admit, I was shocked about how much coverage this received. I mean, businesses rebrand and reposition themselves all the time. Granted, many of them get it wrong, and that's because staying true to your brand requires a discipline that many business leaders just don't have. They often believe and try to go after customers they currently don't have and choose not to focus on the existing customers they do have. Even some of the best companies get it wrong. You know, it may be hard to believe now, but in the early 2000s, Target was hot and killing it. Target was attracting customers who were more affluent than those at Walmart, and Target had established a loyal customer base. Well, Walmart decided they wanted some of it. So in 2006, Walmart announced a store redesign in an effort to appeal to a broader demographic and to more affluent customers. And then the next year, Walmart announced a new advertising campaign with a new slogan, Save Money, Live Better, which replaced the existing slogan of Always Low Prices, Always. Now, that slogan had been in place for nearly 20 years, allowing Walmart to own the positioning of low prices in the American retail landscape. Well, this change by Walmart led to 2 key outcomes, both of them bad. First, Walmart was unsuccessful in attracting the target customers, despite their multi-million-dollar advertising effort. And by abandoning their low price position, they left a void that was quickly filled by dollar stores who only emphasized their low prices. Now, of course, Walmart later admitted the misstep and corrected it, returning to their roots. And they recovered well. I mean, Walmart is currently thriving, but even Walmart was guilty of neglecting their current customer base. So time will tell how the Cracker Barrel decision will affect the company and brand in the long term. But I totally reject this idea that this was a political statement by Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel sales have been decreasing for years, and there have been mixed reviews, to be kind, on their food quality and store experience. Personally, I think their pancakes are fantastic, but there's really nothing else on the menu that appeals to me. Any leader facing these trends and these business results realizes something has to change, which is what led to this bold decision. Now, was this the right way to go? I don't know, but I do know it wasn't because of wokeness. They were just looking for something to help grow the business. The outrage is ridiculous, and these people need to get over themselves. Okay, breaking news. Literally, just as I'm recording this, Cracker Barrel just announced that they are scrapping the new logo and returning to their old logo. I guess they concluded that this was not going to die down, and they are admitting a mistake, correcting it, and moving on. And probably not a bad plan. Still allows them the flexibility for the rest of their turnaround, which is upgrading the stores and putting together a better menu. But they clearly feel the risk to their base was too great to continue. And I truly don't have a problem with the decision, and we'll see how that plays out. But just updating it, and it doesn't change all the things I just said about what goes into being true to your brand and showing discipline. Okay, let's now get to today's truth. In today's truth, I want to talk about job security or insecurity and how to recognize when your job may be at risk. Okay, first let me say this. There's no such thing as a safe job. Now, obviously, some positions are safer than others. Generally, people feel safer when they've had a number of years of experience, have consistently received strong performance reviews, and continue to produce measurable results that are widely known. The widely known part is important, and I'll speak more about that in a few minutes. Conversely, the opposite or absence of these factors make your job more vulnerable, meaning if you're new in position, haven't had a chance to impact the organization, and your efforts go unknown or unnoticed. But don't ever lose sight of this point. There are no jobs that are totally safe. On more than one occasion, I've seen CEOs who started the company get replaced by the board of directors. In a previous episode, I talked about the risk of becoming too comfortable. This is particularly risky when it comes to job security. It's actually a bit healthy to always be a little on edge, feeling like you have to prove yourself. This mentality will keep you sharp. Okay, so let's look at some of the key factors or red flags that should alert you that your job may be at risk. First, you notice recent changes in your relationship with your boss and how she treats you. Are you receiving less communication and interactions? Perhaps the frequency and quality of your one-on-one interactions have decreased. Maybe you're receiving less guidance or feedback. All these are signs that your boss is pulling back from you, which is not good. It could mean she sees less value in you, or worse, needs the relationship to be more impersonal, which will make it easier on her if she has to later let you go. Another sign, You experience a change or reduction in your role and responsibilities. Are you now working on projects that are less important than your previous assignments? Are you not as frequently included in key business meetings or discussions? Again, it's never good to be becoming less of a key player. And here's a very common scenario. You get a new boss. Now, the key here is, what are the circumstances and reasons for you getting a new supervisor? If your previous boss just got promoted to a bigger role in the organization, just leaving a vacancy, that might not be too bad. But if your previous boss was replaced or left the organization, you probably want to be more alert. In a previous episode, I mentioned that I had developed a set of workplace principles by which I communicate, behave, manage, and lead, and that I call them Marvinisms. Well, one of my key Marvinisms is this: new guy has to do new guy things. Whenever a new leader or supervisor is put in place, you can be sure there will be changes. Now, you can't always predict the changes, but some things have to change because you got a new guy. And if new guy is a replacement, then he was told coming in that things need to improve. His management is looking for better performance than they saw from your previous leader. And often, one of the first places new guy looks for potential change is his new inherited team. And while the current team may in fact be awesome, some people are just more comfortable bringing in their own guys. I used to live by the motto, you may shoot me, but I'm not going to load the gun for you. So throughout my career, I always made it a point to ensure I was aligned with my boss on priorities and expectations. I would ask, hey, what are the top 3 priorities you have for the team? I just want to make sure that I'm spending my time on the projects that most mattered to my boss. And second, I would ask him to articulate his expectations of me. I would say, what do you need to see from me over the next 12 months that would not just say that I did a good job, but that I did a great job? And then I'd follow up that discussion with an email restating the priorities and expectations, all wrapped in the flag of, I just want to make sure I'm clear and doing what you need me to do. It's hard to justify letting someone go when they've done everything that was asked of them. Still, while you can do a lot to increase your job security, as I said, no job is safe. If someone wants to get rid of you, they'll find a way. So let me share a personal example. Early in my career, I was product director at Bell South Telecommunications in Atlanta. At one point, they fired my boss and brought in a new guy, Herb. And early on, it was obvious that Herb was not going to be my biggest fan. I was by far the youngest director on his team, and I had not grown up in the phone company. I had come in from Procter & Gamble and had only been at Bell South for a year. Herb had been with the organization for over 20 years, mostly in field operations, and he truly believed the best leaders should grow up in the company. But Herb was also a politically savvy person. And while he wasn't fond of me, he quickly recognized that the president of our business unit, Herb's boss, had a very high opinion of me. So Herb was careful not to ever say anything negative about me, regardless of how he felt. So when I came into the organization, I inherited a major product development project that was an organizational disappointment, if not flat out embarrassment. It was at least 2 years overdue from launch and experienced many technical setbacks as well as leadership changes. So the organization was looking for me to lead the recovery and get this product to market. So I was having a project review meeting with my president, Bill, and Herb was also in the meeting. I was taking Bill through my recommendations for next steps, but he wasn't on board. He had questions and doubts that this approach would be successful. And I assured him I had secured cross-functional support to my plan, but he still wasn't there. And we debated it for a while. We even argued. And then Bill ended the meeting like this. He's like, look, I don't think this will work, but I see you feel really strongly about it, but I'm not seeing it just yet. So why don't you schedule a follow-up meeting where we can have more time for you to better explain this to me? And I said, okay. Herb never said a word in this meeting. So not soon after I had returned to my office, I received a call from Herb to come to his office. And then a surreal conversation took place. He opened with, well, that didn't go well. And I said, nah, it didn't. And he was like, Bill was really upset. And I said, yeah, I'm pretty upset too, but we'll get through it. I'll set up the follow-up meeting and I know I can do a better job of explaining and getting him there. And then Herb says, no, I don't think you can. You know, I'm really good at reading a room and I don't know if you can recover. Now I'm thinking, where's this going? What's he trying to do here? Well, I didn't have to wait long to find out. He says, yeah, I'm thinking I may need to make a change and put someone else in place to lead this project. And I'm thinking, based on one meeting? And he said, and I shared this opinion with Bill after you left. Interesting. Then he says, look, this is a tough project and I see an out and I'm going to take it. See, if I bring in another guy, I buy myself at least another year before anyone's looking for any results. It'll take some time to refill your position, and then the new guy will need some time to get up to speed. That gives me time to manage Bill and his expectations. And you know, 12 months is a long time. A lot could happen or change. Hell, this project might even be dead by then. And after hearing him say this to me, you know what I was thinking? Well, my first thought was, I was impressed with his candor. He's telling me to my face that he sees an opportunity to throw me under the bus, get rid of me, and that he's going to take it. He continued, you know, you're still young in your career. You still have opportunities elsewhere. I'm stuck here. I got to make the most of this situation. He said, you know, corporate marketing has been calling me for weeks to see if you were available. They have a position there and they really want to place you in that role. Now, I've been putting them off, but now I strongly recommend you contact them and talk about the position. And so I said, well, what if I don't want to move to corporate marketing? Again, he was candid. He said, look, I can't fire you. You haven't stolen any money from the company and I don't have you on a performance plan. But here's what I can do. I can strip away all your people and responsibilities so that you get so frustrated, you'll probably quit on your own. Then he says, look, I think you're a nice man and I'm sure you'll be okay. Don't worry too much about it. And I just looked at him for a few seconds and then I replied, this is not fear you see on my face. I know I'll be fine. What you're seeing is shock and disappointment that this is how you make decisions, that you're just so afraid. Now, what Herb didn't know was that as soon as Herb became my new boss, I knew I needed to be looking for other opportunities. And at the time of this discussion that we were having, I was in the final rounds of interviews with GTE Wireless in California, a job offer I received soon after. But what I said to Herb right then was, okay, fine. I'll call corporate marketing and see what they have to say. Then I just shook my head, looked at him in disgust, and got up and left. So I did take the job in corporate marketing, but I was there less than a month before I resigned and joined GT Wireless in California. So I was 33 years old, and I learned an unforgettable lesson from this experience. It's naive to assume that the leaders and executives in the organization are solely focused on building the business. A lot of them are just focused on their own career and self-preservation. And these are the people you have to watch. Okay, Let's summarize some of the key red flags, and then I'll outline some steps you can take to better protect yourself from being fired. Okay, red flags. 1, your boss is less engaging with you. 2, your roles and responsibilities in the organization are decreasing. 3, you keep getting passed over for promotions or big assignments, and you're not receiving feedback or guidance. And another thing to look at, the company's not doing well. Okay, if you're experiencing any of these situations, what should you do? Well, don't make it easy for them. Make it hard for them to let you go without some consideration. Okay, first, make sure you know where you stand with your boss. You know, some organizations are very structured and consistent in providing feedback, but many others have limited or inconsistent requirements. Make your boss give you feedback. You know, many supervisors are uncomfortable providing constructive feedback. They're afraid of the employee's reaction, and they often just want to avoid conflict. Strive to get the expectations in writing. If your boss won't write them down, then you put together a summary email outlining what you believe the expectations and feedback are, and then you send them to your boss. Again, from a tone standpoint, position this as your effort to be clear and perform better. No one can say no to that. Also, just in general, be a good employee. Don't be tardy or absent. Meet all your deadlines. Don't let bad news sit. And if you've messed up, make sure your boss hears it from you. Another thing, follow and keep up with the company's business performance. If your company is publicly traded, read the earnings call transcripts and keep up with how the company is covered in the financial news. Company executives and leadership love and are always impressed to see employees, especially junior employees, who show interest in the company's performance and not just their own individual jobs. Wherever you are, this can be a good build to your personal brand. Also, build cross-functional relationships in the organization where you can. Companies don't like to lose valuable employees. So even if your boss doesn't fully appreciate you, if you build fans in other parts of the organization, it will be harder for your boss to explain or justify letting you go when other people are saying you're great. This is the point I was making earlier about making sure your value is widely known. Well, let me also say this. Generally speaking, it's better to quit than being fired. It's a lot easier to explain when you're interviewing for new jobs. But don't quit if it means walking away from financial benefits that you would receive if fired. I mean, even if you don't have an employment contract, the company policy or state law often require that you are offered some financial benefits when fired, such as COBRA or severance or outplacement services. If you quit, they owe you nothing. But unless you are financially prepared to go for a while without a paycheck, don't quit until you already have something else lined up. Okay, let's get to today's American history fun fact. Today's American history fun fact. This story actually comes from my hometown, Memphis, Tennessee. And it begins with Clarence Saunders, who was born in Virginia in 1881. His family moved to Tennessee in 1891. And by age 11, Clarence was working in a sawmill during the summer and in a general store during the holidays. And then at age 14, after only 2 years of formal education, he quit school altogether and began working full-time at the general store. Over the next 5 years, he worked in a variety of labor-intensive jobs, but he also realized he needed more education if he was going to achieve greater success. So he became an avid reader and a self-taught student. In the year 1900, at age 19, Saunders moved to Clarksville, Tennessee, which is about 50 miles outside of Nashville. Clarence began working in the wholesale grocery business for John Hurst, and he rapidly rose in the business. In 1903, Clarence married Carolyn Walker, and then the next year they moved to Memphis, where Clarence worked for wholesale grocers. And at this time, Memphis was booming with the population growing from 33,000 residents in 1880 to over 100,000 when Clarence arrived. So in September 1916, Clarence Saunders launched Piggly Wiggly, the first self-service grocery store in the United States. Until this time, grocery stores did not allow customers to gather their own items. Instead, a customer would give a list of items to a clerk who would then collect them throughout the store. But at Piggly Wiggly, shoppers were allowed to browse through the store with shopping carts and pick out their own items. And while this did lead to an increase in shoplifting, these losses were far more greatly offset by the increase in impulse buying. The store set up turnstiles where customers entered and then set up point of sale lanes for the customers to exit. Clarence was able to remove the unnecessary shopping clerks, and then he arranged the store in a way that forced customers to view all the merchandise in a continuous path. Additionally, the store stocked 4 times the variety of items found in traditional grocery stores. Clarence filed several patents related to his, quote, self-serving store. He was even granted a patent for his process of providing customers with a printed receipt at checkout. Well, the success of Piggly Wiggly store was phenomenal. In 1921, just 5 years after opening the first store, there were 615 stores in 200 cities and 40 states. In February 1922, Saunders listed shares of Piggly Wiggly on the New York Stock Exchange. And then in April of 1922, Piggly Wiggly sold 50,000 new shares at a price of $43 per share. Now that would be equivalent to $827 a share in 2025 dollars and a market cap of $41 million. By 1923, Piggly Wiggly had grown into 1,267 stores, 667 owned by the company and the rest owned by franchisees. The company employed 250 people in Memphis. Stock in Piggly Wiggly stores paid an 11% dividend. At its peak in 1932, the company operated over 2,600 stores and posted annual sales in excess of $180 million, an amount equal to over $4 billion in 20 to $25. However, the personal fortunes of Clarence Saunders did not go as well. In 1922, Clarence attempted to short squeeze Piggly Wiggly stock. Now, I won't get into all the mechanics of that's involved in that, but his actions drove the stock price from $40 to $120, providing millions of dollars for profit on paper to Clarence Saunders. But the New York Stock Exchange determined that Saunders had cornered the market, which was illegal, and they had Piggly Wiggly stock taken off the board. Additionally, Clarence had to turn over all his assets to banks who had helped finance his attempt. Clarence lost $9 million in the attempted corner. Following these events, the company was divided into strategic units which were sold to regional grocery chains, including Kroger and Safeway. Today, Piggly Wiggly is headquartered in Keene, New Hampshire. As of 2024, over 500 independently owned Piggly Wiggly stores currently operate across 18 states, primarily in smaller cities and towns. One final note on this story. During the time of his stock activity and troubles in the 1920s, Clarence was in the process of building this huge mansion as his personal residence. The home was to be constructed of pink Georgia marble on 63 acres. However, after losing most of his fortune in the stock exchange debacle and then the crash of 1929, Saunders had to abandon his home building plans. The city of Memphis acquired the unfinished mansion in 1929, and since 1930, it has been a Memphis landmark known as the Pink Palace Museum of Science and History. Okay. That's all I have for you today on The Ruthless Truth. Thank you so much for listening. Again, you can engage on Instagram at TruthDavis5, and there's also a YouTube channel, and then Ruthless Truth on Facebook. Thanks again, and I will talk to you soon.